Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, a co-host of the Top Business Leaders Show, where we feature CEOs, entrepreneurs, and top leaders in the business world. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses reach their dream relationships and connect with more clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships, and get ROI through done-for-you podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships, there's no better way to do it than to profile the people and companies that you admire on your podcast. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. My guest today is Octavia Gilmore, a visionary graphic designer and founder of Creative Juice. She discovered her passion for design at age 14 and honed her skills with a BFA from Savannah College in Georgia, Savannah College of Art and Design. With just 2 years post-graduation, Octavia boldly launched Juice in 2013, transforming it into a cutting-edge multicultural marketing powerhouse. Specializing in branding, web design, and digital marketing, Creative Juice brings a diverse global team dedicated to breaking barriers and fostering wealth and equity in communities of color. As a celebrated under 30 awardee and an Emerging Alumna Award recipient from her alma mater, Octavia's commitment extends beyond business success to empowering and mentoring the next generation of leaders. Octavia, that was easy for me to say. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Hello.
Appreciate you joining me. I'm looking forward to talking to you. Tell me, as we get started here, what kind of inspired you to pursue a career in marketing and branding?
That's a great question. So I come from a family of creatives. However, no one necessarily pursued a creative career. So I knew pretty early on as a teenager, I wanted to do graphic design. So my uncle actually gave me Photoshop when I was 14, and I pretty much fell in love with it. And I decided I wanted to pursue it as a career. I always knew that I would own an agency. I would say when I got to college, I told everyone, I'm going to start my own agency when I'm like 30 years old, because I thought that was so old back then. But yeah, I went to school and really utilized like my school's career website. So different businesses around Atlanta would post, if they needed like a logo design or website design on SCAD's career site. And I was one of the only students who really took advantage of that. So I started freelancing probably like my junior year of college. And by the time I graduated, I had a pretty decent clientele. This was back when also like Craigslist was more popular. I would even post ads on Craigslist about my services to get some clients. So fast forward, after graduation, I took a role at a large corporation as a graphic designer. I absolutely hated it. And I said, okay, what am I going to do now? So I was looking for some jobs at some agencies here locally in Atlanta. And I just noticed that there wasn't much diversity. There wasn't many people that looked like me in terms of like agency ownership. And that's kind of what sparked me to launch Creative Juice, just to bring some more flair into this space. So I pretty much started it as a one-woman shop at home with my laptop. And about 6 months later, I had so much work to do. I actually hired like my first contractor. And then fast forward to today, we've blossomed into a boutique branding and marketing agency working with some pretty large clients. And yeah, since COVID, we pretty much closed our physical office in Atlanta, and that allowed us to build a more global team, which pretty much is representative of what the world looks like today. So one of our unique values that we bring to the table is having this global team with truly unique global perspectives, all working with, our client on their branding. And yeah, that's pretty much the story of how I got started. So yeah, always knew I wanted to own an agency. Didn't expect to start it at 23. But the universe had other plans, and here we are today. So
that is awesome. Amazing. So why, how did you know you always wanted to own an agency? What about that was attractive to you? And is it still attractive to you for that same reason?
Well, I think back then, I was always more of like a leader, whether it's with my friend group or just different things that I did in high school. So yeah, I think just being a leader, having those leadership qualities, and then wanting to have something to call my own that I could pass down in terms of legacy. One of the things that, has been challenging or was challenging was I never worked at an agency and then I started one. So a lot of it was like trial by fire. As most entrepreneurs know, you are literally building the plane as you're flying it, which is not always fun. But yeah, I had a lot of challenges, a lot of wins and successes throughout the journey that I'm super proud of.
What did you learn? Before you started the agency, what did you learn kind of in your early work experience that maybe has helped you, with Creative Juice now beyond the fact that you didn't necessarily care for working in corporate America?
Well, I would say one of the things that from a culture perspective, we are really big on like customer service. And
Hmm.
I think it's because I used to work at like Toys R Us during the holidays. And I used to get like angry customers with toys thrown at me, all types of crazy things. But I really realized actually more recently, one of the reasons why we're so much on our professionalism and really trying to anticipate our clients' needs before they do is that customer service background. Also, I'm a pretty detail oriented person. So, in terms of like our culture, making sure that we are crossing every T and dotting every I is really, really important. Making sure that we, execute at the highest level. That is the expectation of everyone at the agency. I think that also comes from just me personally, my experience, as well as my personality, wanting to be like an overachiever, which is what I was in high school and college as well.
So I want to get into some of the biggest challenges you've faced as a marketing expert, but in terms
Mhm.
of being an entrepreneur, what have maybe you learned, or what has surprised you the most about running your own business beyond just being a great, agency leader? What about running a business has surprised you, or have you learned from?
I would say one of the things I didn't realize was I went to school for graphic design and branding. So then I started a branding and, web agency.
Hmm.
And you don't realize that in order to scale, you don't actually do the work anymore. So right now, my job is sales, right? In operations and really overseeing the agency. So I'm not necessarily able to always be as creative as I would like to be. And that kind of sucks. But I am still the visionary, right? I do a lot of creative direction and kind of overseeing the team. So I would say that the second piece is really understanding like the numbers. So one of my challenges early on was I was a freelancer. When you're a freelancer, you have an hourly rate, however many hours it takes. That's what you quote the client, you get paid, whatever. But as you start to scale and you have people on the team that aren't necessarily billable, then you have to understand like profit margins and things of that sort. So that was kind of like a really big aha moment. When even if it's something looks like a really good deal that you might close, you have to literally do the math and account for all of your overhead, whether it's software, people, things of that sort. So that was something that I really had to learn in terms of like how to price accordingly, obviously to make money.
Are these things you never would have learned if you just hadn't done it?
Exactly. Right.
You mentioned you had faced some pretty big challenges early on. Can you share what some of those might have been, especially when it comes to founding Creative Juice or just marketing and branding in general?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges was being a 23-year-old pitching large corporate clients, going up against agencies that had, 20, 30 years experience. So, obviously our work was good. We were able to be in those same rooms, but I think just there's a lot of bias there. I'm a young Black millennial female, right? And I'm going up against these larger agencies. There was one point of time where I just literally contemplated like, how do I make myself look a little bit older and more mature? Because it's like, oh, you're cute, right? So just getting people to like really take me seriously early on in my career was a little frustrating. Now that I'm a little bit more seasoned and have much more experience, I'm able to, speak to that experience and really build more trust with clients up front. But it was more of a challenge just being so young, just trying to run this agency and really grow it and, making sure that I was able to articulate the value that we could bring at such a young age.
When you were pitching to a big company or somebody you may have been, as a young person, kind of intimidated by, what kind of mindset did you have, and who was if you can mention them, or somebody who was like the big, kind of like a big fish, like, whoa, yeah, I got that one.
I would say we worked with some pretty large clients. So we've worked with like Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, Equifax, Goodwill of North Georgia. I would say Home Depot was probably the hardest client. I worked on that client for about 2 years before I was able to close them. And that's when I really learned that sometimes it's more about relationships, right? So less about what you can do and more about how are you really nurturing, again, these clients and building trust with them. So I would say that's something that I had to learn. There's the cliche, your net worth is your network, is really true. And I would also say that I'm one of those people that, as I've excelled in my career, I have made it a point to really focus on building my network to a point where I'm able to get clients or whatever I need. I'm able to just ask for referrals. So that was just really like something that I learned was key early in my career.
So, so being able to work with Home Depot, that was something that kind of developed over time. It wasn't like you went in there and blew the
Right.
doors off, and then they joined up with you.
Right. That was a lot of like showing up to their events, showing up to different conferences, putting them on our email marketing list so that we're staying relevant or that they can keep us top of mind, connecting with people in the department on LinkedIn. It's like a multifaceted strategy, again, to just keep us top of mind.
How do you stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies in what you do?
That's a good question. I am the type of person that I love to learn. So even now, we are revamping the agency and really developing a model where we're integrating like ChatGPT and Midjourney into the work that we do. So I would say from an agency perspective, it really does come from me top down, and then I'm kind of deploying that into my organization. But yeah, I love to stay up to date with the latest and greatest trends. And I think being a millennial owned agency with all millennial employees, it's important for us to keep our ears to the ground because clients are going to see something new and shiny and come to us and ask for it. And I think it's important that we know what they're talking about. So yeah, I just think whether it's social media, listening to podcasts, I do a lot of like YouTube University, just making sure that I'm staying up to date personally and then deploying that with the rest of the team.
Where are you at in terms of your integration of AI? Have you fully embraced it? Like it's a major tool? Are you still figuring out how to use it? Where are you guys at?
I would say we're like 80% there. We are training ChatGPT to really understand like the nuances of what we do, as well as like our tone. So it helps us now like draft proposals or things of that sort. Midjourney is something that I've started exploring like probably last year. And one of the reasons why that really excited me was because in our industry years ago, if I needed a Black person holding an iPhone, you go to istock.com, it just didn't exist, unfortunately. Now it's a little bit better with diversity, but with the power of Midjourney, I'm able to create diverse imagery that is limitless, right? So if you need a man walking on the moon, I can create a visual of that. So I'm one of those people that I'm really embracing AI. I think you could either let it dumb you down or let it make you smarter. So I'm in ChatGPT almost every day. I pretty much have integrated it into my daily life, not only from a business perspective, but personally. Like if I'm hungry, I ask ChatGPT, here's the ingredients, like develop 2 or 3 recipes of what I can make today with these ingredients. And I really think it's a powerful tool. And I'm really excited to see how AI continues to get smarter and how we can continue to use it in our business to move faster and to help give our clients more value.
Have you gotten some good meals out of it?
Yes, we have. Whether it is creating custom imagery for clients or again, allowing us to maybe give them more concepts in terms of like strategies. It also helps us think outside the box. So, you can ask it like, hey, what are some super creative, off the beaten path marketing strategies that we can implement for this client? And it really does come up with some good options. Of course, we customize it and tailor it with our own expertise and put our own little spin on it, but it does give us a pretty decent foundation in terms of what we can use, which is exciting.
I know in marketing and branding, you have to be really creative, which you clearly are. How do you kind of balance being, creative, but being strategic at the same time?
That's a good question. I think I'm just one of those people that has a little bit of both sides of the coin. I think being a business owner and going through different business classes. So, for example, I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, which again was like really teaching me how my numbers in my agency tell a story. And then also, as my agency continued to grow and understanding, again, I'm going pitching against these really large agencies. You do have to be strategic. You do have to understand, what is my unique value proposition? What is my target audience that I'm going after? Because that helps you really like tailor your messaging from a marketing perspective. So these are just all little things I've learned along the way through like business classes. So, I went to art school. I didn't learn the business of an agency. This all was just, again, trial by fire, speaking to mentors, and then just making mistakes and saying, oh, guess I can't do that anymore. It's interesting because even our contracts, right? When I first started out, downloaded a free contract online. And then over the years, right, you get smarter, things happen and you're like, oh, I need to add that in the contract. So now you have like this, like a pretty robust contract that clients sign. And it really just comes from experience.
Is there a project that you have worked on during your career that's particularly memorable? Like whoa, like I did that, or maybe it was early on and you thought to yourself, I did this. I'm actually pretty decent at this.
That's a good question. One of the projects that I'm really proud of was a client in a multicultural hair space. They sell different products in like a beauty supply store, and they wanted to take their products, which are typically sold between like $3 and $10, and like revamp the look and feel so that they could put it in more big box retailers like Target and CVS. So I worked very closely with them, like redeveloping their packaging to make it more like luxury upscale. And now that the actual products are in Target and in CVS, so when I walk in there and I see that package design, that's when I'm like, oh, okay, this looks amazing. It looks really good. And like I actually created this. So
Yeah, awesome. How do you measure the success of a marketing or branding campaign?
that's a good question. What we like to do is try to really define KPIs upfront based on the client's goals. So, if it's a certain percentage of how much they want to increase leads, or feeding the funnel, or, if they're starting out and want to grow like their social media following, we set those KPIs up front and then we just measure against them essentially. And we're a pretty robust team, but we move very nimbly. So essentially, if something isn't working, we're able to pivot fairly quickly in terms of like a strategy. But our goal is always to make sure that clients see some type of ROI with anything that we work on with them.
As kind of an observer of business in general in the world, are there some big mistakes that you see businesses make when it comes to marketing and branding that where you're like, I don't know what they were thinking?
Yes, I think the biggest mistakes that I see are not understanding the pain points of your target audience
Mm-hmm.
and like really understanding like why they would purchase from you. So we really stress the importance of having like a really clear brand strategy, really clear messaging, because if you're able to communicate to your ideal audience in a way that truly resonates with them, your services or products will essentially sell themselves. And I think that a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, don't really understand the power of branding. You know, a lot of them think it's just the logo, but it really does go into everything, how your employees communicate, what they're wearing, right? What is the expectation that this client can anticipate when working with you? All of that's part of your branding. So I think that is the piece, like not spend enough time on your branding and messaging and really understanding the audience and their pain points and how your services or products can benefit them.
How do you kind of maintain relationships with your clients beyond just making it one like transaction?
That's a good question. I think for me, during our discovery process, getting to know them a little bit more personally, we just worked with a nonprofit that specifically targeted victims of endometrial cancer. But one of the things I asked all the people on the team that we're working with was, why do you work here? Tell me about your personal story. And that was able to help us like translate that into the messaging and into the why, to really highlight the impact that that organization does. And then I try to ask questions that clients don't necessarily think about. So, you know, maybe you have these core audiences, but who else might be interacting with your brand? So I think getting to know the clients personally, and then also asking questions that maybe, you know, another agency might not have asked, because again, it goes more into like that strategy. We want our clients to see us more as partners, not as a service provider, essentially. And I think the best way to do that is to just really understand like the nuances of what they do and why at a personal level. And then that helps us like translate it into their marketing.
Do you take an intentional approach? You talked about it a little bit earlier to diversity and inclusion at Creative Juice.
Oh, absolutely. We strive to hire the diverse top talent. In terms of our culture, we encourage people of different walks of life, because we really do value those unique and different perspectives. I think that also might be like a millennial thing.
Mhm.
So I've worked with clients and they're just like, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've never seen it done this way, right? And it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just a different way to look at something. It's a fresh approach. So I really do value having a diverse team, because you do get those different approaches that make you think outside the box. And that's really important to us.
I have one more question for you, but first, tell me how people can find out more about Creative Juice.
Yeah, so you can visit us online. Our website is itscreativejuice.com. That's the best place to find us, to see some of our samples and our amazing global team that we have.
If a millennial younger than you, or somebody in Gen Z, or somebody said that they've always wanted to run an agency and they were young, or they have a bunch of great ideas, what advice would you give them? Just because that's based solely you've done it and they haven't.
I would say don't give up. Like resiliency is like the top core. To me, being resilient is why some entrepreneurs make it and others don't. When you have what we call like a failure, it's really not necessarily a failure. It's, what did you learn from this to not do that again? Or what would you do differently? And that to me is the best teacher, right? Experience. So again, I don't have an MBA. I didn't go to business school. And here I am, ran a successful agency for 11 years. So it's really just about not giving up, understanding that the mistakes you made are like, you know, learning steps for you to get to the next level, and just continuing to be resilient. Sometimes, you know, entrepreneurship does beat you up a little bit, but you just have to dust your shoulders off, get back up and keep going. So I would say that. And then not being afraid to pivot, right? The landscape is always changing in branding and marketing. Even with us, we're like, okay, now how do we integrate AI into this, right? There's always something new that you have to kind of learn or understand. So just not being afraid to continue to learn, and be like a sponge and just soak everything up, and then understanding how you can apply that to your business to be successful.
Okay, fantastic. Hey, Octavia, it's been great to talk to you today. Thank you so much for your time and all of your insights. Congratulations on your success so far.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.